In the UK, former police officers claim they've used dead children's IDs to infiltrate into protest groups. Two former policemen have told a British tabloid that they used identity records of deceased children in operations mainly dating back to the 1980s. The officers say they were issued driving licenses and national insurance documents with the children's names. They belong to the disbanded Special Demonstrations Squad, or the SDS rather. The squad mainly infiltrated protest groups. The Scotland Yard is investigating the claims before a full official inquiry is launched. Let's get more now from Amina Taylor, our correspondent, with me live from London. So, Amina, what else do you know about this latest scandal?
It is scandalous, isn't it, Homer? Because just last week I did a package here for the channel where we talked about some of the worry that was coming from campaigners, activists and policemen and people who were involved in activism across the country, where relationships were being used almost as a method of extracting information from people who were buried deep within these organizations. The name Mark Kennedy came up, who has become something of a poster child for this movement of metropolitan police officers buried deep within different, in his case, environmental movements. But for all we know, the full spectrum of where these officers have been has simply not been released by the Metropolitan Police Commissioner. And there was to be, according to Theresa May, no inquiry about just how deep this infiltration ran and just how much these officers were allowed to get away with. For example, women becoming pregnant, second and third families being started, and then these men simply disappearing into life's ether. Now that this news has broken, that for many families who would have lost their loved ones so very young, to know that police officers, without their permission, without their consent and without their knowledge, had gone on to use their information to establish firm identities for themselves, well, it really is beyond the pale. And I think the calls now for a wide-ranging and deeply probing inquiry to look at just how far this has run, those calls can no longer be ignored, Homer.
Right, as you say there, some of the police officers, we're hearing, spent up to 10 years pretending to be people who had died, and they were even issued identity records such as driving licenses, national insurance numbers, and this has happened without the knowledge, we're hearing, of the children's parents. Now, it is considered an immoral and, of course, a systematic practice as well. So how has this issue basically been reflected in the UK among the public?
I would believe there's not a person I've spoken to, at least when I was speaking with Jenny Jones, who's with the Green Party in the London Assembly, about the similar issue of infiltration and just lying to the public and not making everything clear. There was shock and horror that this could have been a strategy. And I find it difficult to believe that this unit that was disbanded in 2008, there wasn't some kind of senior complicity in all of this. And several of the women who were duped in this, a very good story for you. One of the women who was involved in a relationship with a man masquerading with the identity of a child that had died went to knock at the last known address that this child had. Now, can you imagine the complete shock and horror that would have ensued had the family been aware of this, of caught wind of this? Unfortunately for that woman in question, the family had moved on. It's completely shocking that this would have been allowed to continue. You would think, Homer, that the police would have been able to create identities without resorting to this underhand tactics. And there'll be a meeting of the Home Office Select Committee Tuesday in London, where some of the women duped and the journalists from The Guardian who broke this story, as well as several undercover officers who did use these identities, they'll be able to answer some very probing questions.
All right, thank you very much. Amina Taylor with us there live from London with the latest.